Gary, good to sit down with you once again. This is the first of a two-part interview as we reflect on the last few months. The lads have been back in full training today. How do you think they fared on the whole?
Yeah, really good, positive session. Sort of the ideas of pre-season are to get players where they need to be come sort of the first game of the season, and it's about trying to stay injury free. So it's obviously a lot of proactivation and prevention work, and obviously then sort of making sure we do plenty of recovery. But the session was relatively hard, but I'd say it was fair. Chaps look in really good shape. Mark had given them a programme for 3 weeks prior to coming back, and the majority of them you can see have been definitely participating in that programme, because some of the the testing times that they put in today was excellent, and that tells me that they're in a good place and they're focused. I like the look of the group. I really do like the look of the squad. It's got lesser numbers, but it's got some real quality in there, and I can already feel like the 16-17 that we've already got signed, there's going to be a real fight to get in that 11. So only bodes well going forward, Jack, and I'm really pleased with the early business we've done. There was one or two players that I know raised a few eyebrows that maybe wasn't retained, I'm sure we'll touch on, or wasn't taken into next year, but I just felt the need to, as I say, streamline the squad, as I said in an earlier interview, and go with a little bit more quality over quantity. Of course there's risk involved in that, but with Mark and the coaching team we've got everything in place to try and do everything in our power to stay healthy.
Now looking more at the additions now, Liam Nash, Ryan Scott, Ryan Blackman and Alfie Truly were all recruited shortly after the end of the season. All players that will add something to the side. Yeah,
I think as you look at them in a little bulk of players, it's a real strong group of players that have been added, and it gives us plenty of quality in that final third. I think Alfie, Troy, Nashi, it's a strong group that's already added to your Elliot Longs and Frankie Merrifields and Femi Akinwandis. I think you look at that front end of the pitch, there's goals, there's quality, there's tenacity, there's pace. There's a bit of everything in there. And again, when we're making the squad that little lesser in numbers, you've got to make sure you get the balance right in them sections of the pitch. And I think the front end of the pitch, the middle end of the pitch, and the defensive end of the pitch has still got I would say room for one or two more additions, and we're still looking at that, but we've got to just make sure that it definitely adds to our 11 now, because I feel that the 16 or 17 are really strong and the additions really strengthen us, Jack.
And those signings were followed by an influx of new faces towards the start of June. Troy Howard, Jazzy Barnum Bob and Tyrese Owen all signing on the dotted line. Just a bit on their signings.
Yeah, I think we didn't really touch on them too much, did we? But Tyrese, he's a big central midfielder that played a lot of Conference South games last year, admittedly for a team that struggled a little, but it was a tough league last year. But his stats read really well. He gives us a real presence in midfield. We signed one last year that maybe never quite worked out, but we see in Tyrese lots of good qualities, and he'll be good in both boxes, but he's very, very good in terms of his ball carrying qualities, and his decision making on the ball is very good as well. Jazzy Barnum Bob was someone that was identified early in the summer recruitment process. We obviously had Brad in the building the latter stages of the season, and I know there was a lot of noise to keep him, and we did speak to Brad, but the one player that we felt would be worthy and would be a great addition was the player that kept him out the side at Chelmsford, and Jazzy did that. Most of Jazzy's game time was in that right central defending area of the pitch. He brings brilliant quality to the back line in terms of experience and nous and know-how, and he's a great character as well. Great leadership qualities. I think in all of the additions we've made, we've added some real leadership to the group, and I do believe he'll be a great addition. In Troy, he's one of the players that we've taken a pump from the lower division, but there was a lot of clubs after him. He brings that raw pace and that raw quality in the wide areas. He's going to be exciting to watch. He's bubbly. He's got a great personality, great character. He's a family man, which is important to me. So it tells you he's well grounded. I think the change room are going to enjoy his company as well. and he's got goals and assists. I think he was 30 plus last year in terms of goals and assists in a free scoring side at Sittingbourne. So another really good addition, and one I'm really looking forward to working with.
We've also let go of a handful of crucial players in our title push last term. That must be one of the harder things to do as a manager, letting go of a group of really good people.
Yeah, I mean, they all contributed to a really positive season, and we didn't quite get to where we wanted to be, and we come up short game 42, and obviously in the playoff game. But they all contributed in their own way. It would have been quite easy to go into next season with that group of players just looking to make that point or even goal adjustment to our totals last year. But I felt it was, when I looked at the squad and the way the season mapped out, we had a lot of players sitting in the stand at, for the latter stages of the season, not making the 16, and I just felt it was there was a bit of waste there in regards to what they bring quality wise and talent wise, and it was why my proposals to the board was to go with a bit more quality and less quantity, and that meant that we had to make some sacrifices that were pretty difficult to make. Some obviously sort of writ their own script in terms of where they were at and their contribution, but in general, we had some really good individuals in our change room last year, and they all go with my thanks and appreciation. We had when the release went out, we were still obviously in discussions with Terrell and Dakari. Dakari has since moved on. He did want to locate somewhere close to him. I don't think he's done that in his next move, but he's obviously gone to the league above. As I said, he was more of an impact player for us, and that didn't really suit him or suit us. We needed more from a starting perspective with him, but he was a great lad and someone really I enjoyed working with, and one I was still in discussions with. Terrell hasn't made his mind up yet, and we haven't in regards to himself. He sort of indicated towards the end of last season he wasn't sure what direction he wanted to go, and we were similar with him, but he's returned back to training today, and we're going to have a chat with him and sit down and talk, see exactly where he's at. But outside of that, the ones that have definitely left, I'll just say, as I say, thank you for your contribution, and I wish you well in pastures new.